Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, it's the Midday Market Report with Jeff Dawson.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I'm your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your midday market report for Tuesday, October 4th already. It's amazing how time flies here. We're at the quarter pole, technically, in the NFL. 4 weeks under the belt, I guess 5 for college if you count week 0. It's our weekly trip out west with our good friend, Mr. Ron from Ron A Sports that joins us here for a half hour, 45 minutes, however long we can keep him here before his busy day, as he's got some podcasts, some shows with Vegas Chris and so on. So without further ado, let's bring him on. Mr. Ron, how are you today, sir?
I'm great today. It's a wonderful day out on the West Coast. I have hit the quarter pole, and it's an exciting time in football. Nobody's out of the race yet.
No, and before we dig in, again, if you go to our website at eastcoastsportsinvestors.com, you pause on our first page, you will get a pop-up right there, Ron's NFL preview and breakdown, download for free, and it's just amazing. All the work, all the dedication, all the blood, sweat, and tears for each of those teams. And you break it down so nice for everyone. It's a shame that more people aren't downloading this, Ron.
Yeah. Well, if they looked at it and they just picked 1 or 2 games last week, if you picked Sunday night, the situation was pretty good with Kansas City against Tampa. And I don't know how many weeks I've been talking about it with Chris and in the preview as well. But last night's game, San Francisco and the Rams, absolutely ideal situation for San Francisco with I love standalone revenge games. I love playoff revenge games as long as they're early in the season and as long as the metrics agree too. And what we had was a downright nasty San Francisco defense that had their way with 7 sacks against the Rams offensive line. It's a rebuilt offensive line. Whitworth is retired. There's been a couple of injuries. The run game isn't working. So it was in the preview for anybody who saw it, and it was on display in terms of the on-field metrics through the first 3 weeks of the season. A really good get-well spot for San Francisco.
Before we start a little tiptoeing in college, let's talk about the Rams for a second. They bring in Allen Robinson, a wide receiver that has put up amazing numbers with no quarterbacks. Now he comes in, hopefully to fill the shoes of OBJ till maybe week 10 or 11 if he decides to go back to the Rams. We've watched the Rams for 4 weeks. It's Cooper Kupp and a cloud of dust. He'll hit the tight end on occasion. Kupp saw about 20 looks yesterday. Didn't get into the end zone. The running game is just nowhere to be found. There's no Todd Gurley on that sheet or Marshall Faulk. It's Henderson. It's Cam Akers. Stafford talked about the offseason, his elbow issues. McVay is supposed to be the genius when it comes to offensive schemes. Ron, we're 4 weeks in, and the NFC West is all 2s and 2s. I know they can win this division. I know the Niners aren't going away. Geno Smith and Seattle is 2-2. Kyler Murray is 0-2 at home facing the Eagles this week. They're 2-0 on the road. Can you help us with the Rams? What's going on?
First of all, Stafford had the offseason procedure. So naturally, him and Allen Robinson, they didn't even see field work together. They didn't get their timing together. The offensive line, McVay rests all of the starters during preseason. This is going to take a mini bye week or a full bye week to get this team back in sync. I love Allen Robinson, and I think he'll be more a part of the offense moving forward. But right now, they're just trying to force the issue. I wouldn't overreact to what happened on last night, because that was San Francisco's defense, and they're not going to face San Francisco's defense every week, although they are going to face them in about 2 or 3 weeks. So they have to be ready for that. It's really after that time that I expect the Rams to get better. We know they added 4 different players to the roster last year and took basically a 9-8 team and got them all the way to the Super Bowl. They're going to have to probably do the same thing, get a couple of extra roster people, because this is really about a 9-8, 10-7 team, the way it's configured right now. But I think we wait and see what happens when the chemistry develops, and they're going to need some time off to get that going.
Is OBJ a must for them in week 10, 11, 12?
It depends on if Allen Robinson is the answer at the number 2 guy. And I think OBJ is going to play the field a little bit. He could go a number of different places, and he's going to have to get back up to speed as well. It's not like you flip a switch, he's in the lineup, and immediately he goes 5 catches, 75 yards. It's a bet on OBJ for the playoffs more than a bet on OBJ for the regular season. So I think there's going to be 3 or 4 teams he's considering. I have a sneaky suspicion that he's looking at Tampa. Hasn't been mentioned, but Tom Brady has a way of getting people into his building. So let's see what happens.
We've been blessed on this show. I said it on my Twitter timeline a couple of weeks ago. I says, can Georgia Tech just play Colorado and get it over with? And next thing you know, Georgia Tech coach fired. Colorado coach fired. In between, Mr. Frost from Nebraska fired. But Sunday, I don't think there was many people that saw the Wisconsin head coach getting fired.
This business of college football is getting out of hand, where you fire somebody in the middle of the season. Never used to happen. And I think it's a shame for college football. If you read between the tea leaves and the lines, Wisconsin defensive coordinator Jim Leonhard was so highly coveted that Wisconsin had to do something to keep him. Eventually, he was going to try the head coaching avenue. And here's his audition right now in a division. If you look at that side, everybody's 1-1, except for Wisconsin. I think they're 0-2, but everybody's 1-1. That division is there for the taking still. Every team has flaws. I don't think the hiring is a good thing for college football, or the firing, I should say, is a good thing for college football, especially with Paul Chryst being so Wisconsin born and raised. And the whole thing about how he runs the offense and the offensive line and the run, everything goes through the running backs. That's what Wisconsin football is all about. But it's Jim Leonhard's turn now, and I think in the long run, maybe it's a good thing. Jim Leonhard has proved to be one of the outstanding defensive coordinators in the nation. So we'll move forward and see what happens.
How much of Illinois and Lovie Smith when they're paid as an early exit and making this one versus what you just said?
Well, I don't want to pile on the coach, but Lovie Smith is a really, really good coach. If this year was 2005, he's not a really, really good coach in 2022. His Houston team in the NFL should be at least 2-2 right now. And because of the way he's managed the team, they're not 2-2. They're whatever they are, 0-3-1. At Illinois, he took a really good pass defense, changed the scheme, and all of a sudden they were allowing 65% through the air, which isn't a good thing in the college game. The whole Lovie Smith thing, I think it's just the business of sports more than anything that's changed it. It's not Lovie Smith in particular. It's, Georgia Southern fired their coach a year or two ago in the midst of one bad season. David Cutcliffe got fired a year after Eli Manning graduated from Mississippi, and he was just having one losing season. David Wells at Texas Tech was fired with the team one play away from being 5-2 and he was fired with a 4-3 record last year because the athletic director said they weren't passing enough. It's not a good thing for college football, and it's not just Lovie Smith. It's just the nature of the business right now.
A good friend of our show, Marty Lowe, a big Alabama fan, Roll Tide. We'll be obviously keeping our eyes on the potential Heisman Trophy winner and quarterback. Is he playing? Is he not playing? He brings up Deion Sanders. Is Deion going to take where he is now? Is someone in a higher rank, a bigger conference, an SEC, Big Ten? Would anyone take the chance on the lightning rod of Deion, or is he just pretty well set where he is?
He could build something special where he is. He's getting recruits at that level that no one has ever gotten. But I think he has an eye for trying the college football level at a higher level. Interesting enough, Mike Norvell at Florida State was on the hot seat this year. But he started 4-0. He's 4-1 now, and he's a good coach. And I'm rooting for Florida State to have success. But if that doesn't go well, what about Deion Sanders to his old alma mater? Nobody's brought that one up.
I like that. I like that a lot. All right, let's stay in college. Big 12 right now. Oklahoma starts the year winning and back-to-back just blowouts. TCU. I was mad at myself, Ron. You'll like this one. I had 3 team totals on the desk at 12 o'clock Saturday. Louisville versus the locals, Boston College, 17 and a hook for BC, juiced under -140. They cash in the second quarter. TCU team total 31 and a hook, juiced -140 under. They get it in the second quarter. I release Iowa team total 14 and a half against Michigan. And of course, I get hooked there. Talk about the Big 12. Talk about what's going on with TCU, Kansas State. Surprised? I am.
Well, we all should have figured out that Kansas and Kansas State would be on top of the leaderboard, right? This is basketball we're talking about. I love the Kansas coach. I think what he did at Wisconsin Whitewater and what he did at Buffalo was amazing. And I thought that it would take him about 3.5 years to get this rolling. Apparently, I was wrong. It's taken him about 15 games to get this rolling. The way Kansas State plays, I'm surprised because quarterback Martinez, who used to be at Nebraska, was very turnover prone there. And to date, I believe he has not thrown an interception. I know he's throwing shorter, but he's in an ideal offense that's suited to his skill set. And he's really thriving there. And that's interesting to see because I didn't see that coming either. I also didn't see the demise of the Oklahoma defense. And boy, we've got a game this week, Oklahoma-Texas, where Texas with Steve Sarkisian is such a good offensive schemer that they may put another 40 or 50 on Oklahoma, even though I thought the spread came out much higher than I would have anticipated because I don't trust Sark as an overall coach. But that Oklahoma defense is in trouble. Going into the season, I thought Oklahoma State was the best team in the conference. They beat Baylor. I'm extremely impressed with how Baylor hung in that game because I didn't think that was a game they would hang in so long. This is a grab bag conference. Oklahoma State, I don't think they're head over heels better than anybody in that conference. TCU is taken by storm, the new hire and the offensive madness that's going on there. He brought the SMU offense back over to TCU, and it's really working. So we're in for a great race in the Big 12, which naturally, because it's going to be such a great race, will probably knock all the teams out of the Final Four. That's the way great races happen in the Pac-12. That's the way great races happen in the Big 12. The more competitive the division is, the less likely they're going to be one of the top 4 teams.
And going back to Saturday, I leave Oklahoma State on the desk. I release Iowa State -3, and the field goal kicker misses not 1, not 2, but 3 field goals. and we lose there. So it's tough, in our business, in our lanes. You feel salty going back to the well. And I'm looking at the spreadsheet right now. You got TCU -7 right now against Kansas. Is that too many points? I mean, I know Kansas is a great story, and TCU, I don't want to say it's a letdown spot. It is a letdown spot after what they did last week. Can they get that thing cranked up, or is Kansas defensively going to be able to slow them down?
I don't think Kansas defensively will slow them down at all. I don't know what the total is on the game, but it better be in the very high 60s.
68 is the consensus right now.
Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. I think Kansas is riding a magical wave, but TCU's stat sheet is off the wall good. So there's so much high scoring variance in that. Game day's coming to Kansas. It's going to be an electric atmosphere. As far as letdowns are concerned, I think it's the next week that will be a letdown for one or both of these teams. I might be looking to fade them the following week and just kind of enjoy the atmosphere this week, because I don't have an edge in that game.
The look ahead line for that Texas Oklahoma was basically, if you went way, way back, like Oklahoma -3, even before last week, Oklahoma was favored. You wake up Monday morning, Texas -7. Does that seem a little too much of an overreaction there, Ron?
Well, my power ratings do not support 7 at all. I'm kind of looking at my numbers right now, and my numbers don't even support Oklahoma being favored, according to my power ratings. Now, the eye test says that Oklahoma is in big trouble in this game, and I think defensively they are. I don't know what's going on offensively with Oklahoma, but this is a rare spot to get Oklahoma as an underdog in this series. Quite honestly, I'm going to have to do more digging in this game, but the only way that I would look would be Oklahoma even though they're playing poorly, if I'm their coach, I'm saying we're a disrespected underdog in this series.
We were on UCLA on Friday. We had them +3, +115 on the money line. This game this weekend is, I want to say, initially for all the marbles. I know there'll be bigger games coming. Do you agree or disagree with Utah being favored at UCLA?
I think the line is exactly correct. I think Utah brings what Washington did not bring to the table. Washington did not bring a whole large data set of great success with the new coach, because the new coach had been there 3 or 4 games. In fact, Washington had not even played a road game with that coach to that point. Whole different set of circumstances. Utah is a well-established program, very disciplined, very well-coached program. They'll have their hands full with I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's still an underrated UCLA offense. In year 4 or 5 of the Chip Kelly regime at UCLA, he's got the offense back to exactly what he preached at Oregon and so on. This is a dynamic offense. But I think Utah brings more to the table defensively, and Utah brings more to the table with their consistency on offense. I do not see an edge in this particular game. I think it wouldn't surprise me if UCLA won, but it also wouldn't surprise me if Utah wore down UCLA's defense.
I'm going to ask you 2 more, and I'm not trying to throw curveballs here.
I like curveballs.
Okay, we talked about K-State. We talked about the Iowa State kicker. Now, K-State goes to Iowa State, and shockingly, again, if you looked in June or July, I know this number wasn't K-State -2 at Iowa State.
Yeah, it's unusual to see Iowa State a home underdog the way they've been playing recently, but I would probably lean Kansas State in this particular game. I was heavily invested in the Big 12 last week with my 2 of my 3 biggest plays winners, Kansas State and Oklahoma State. But I did have a loser with Iowa State. I, like you, had Iowa State. I thought they would. I thought the line, my power rating line was, I understood that Kansas had the data, but Iowa State to me had a higher power rating and should have been more of a favorite. But I was wrong in that case. So I've had to adjust my power ratings the way I see it right now, I have adjusted my power ratings, and it just turns out the line is correct. I would still lean Kansas State. I don't know how long Martinez can keep up the no turnovers, but if he does, it's a pretty good offense for him to be in.
I just looked right now. Utah is up to 4.5 in some spots, or 4 or 4.5. The consensus right now is 4.5 at UCLA. There, another loss that I had. You see, I had a lot of losses. 1-5 on Saturday was not fun. My field goal kicking was 1-9 with a missed extra point as well. So I'm blaming it on the kickers, Ron. This one again, the eye test versus. Do I go back to the well? We had LSU -8. Obviously, they won but did not cover. Tennessee goes into Baton Rouge, 2.5 for right now. The consensus -3. Tennessee is against LSU.
Okay, well, you brought up a whole host of points that I want to make. First of all, the people who listen to this who follow me on Twitter and other places know how much value I put in special teams. So when you say kickers went 1 for 9 and did those things and so on, special teams matters, and it has to be part of the equation whenever you handicap a game. I'm sorry, I'll keep saying it again, special teams matters. I had Auburn in the spot against LSU because LSU had been fairly lucky this year in terms of that. But I will say this, 20, 30 years of background research and evaluation and charting my progress and my stat sheet, I'm about a 50% handicapper in the SEC. That's my worst conference. This year's not bad, but but we have a small sample size. So I'm not saying this is going to be the great year for me, but so far so good in the SEC. I try to stay away from games that I don't have really obvious opinions in the SEC just because of my own personal track record. I don't know Tennessee well enough defensively to see if they can keep up the magic that they've been keeping up. This is a big game for them, and I'm going to be watching more as a fan and a look forward type of situation rather than to try to handicap the game.
NFL. We talked before we came on the show, and again, all these shows are unscripted. So when Ron digs deep into the data and he comes up with some nuggets, I want to get them out there. If you would have thought the Jets and Giants are 5-3, you would call me what?
I would call you Nostradamus. I don't know. I would call you. I would say, how come I've been sweeping for 2 years? Because based on their changes at GM and changes at head coach, I think 5-3 was absolutely doable if we were talking in the year 2024. But this is 2022, and they're ahead of the curve. Now, granted, the New York Giants were lucky twice. Tennessee missed a field goal. They had their fire drill. They did whatever they did. There was another toss-up game that the New York Giants did. And then you look at the Jets. If Nick Chubb goes out of bounds or falls on the field of play and doesn't go in the end zone, game's over. The 12-point lead, 13-point lead for Cleveland, and the Jets don't win the game. And then last week, the Jets erased a 20-10 deficit because for some reason, the rookie quarterback, Kenny Pickett, decided he was good enough to throw a pass in traffic when you're leading 20-10. So technically, these teams you are what your record is, says Bill Parcells, I think it is, but they could have easily been 1-7 combined. I like the direction of both these teams, and I like the fact that winning brings confidence, so we could see more of that. And we know that they're in good spots for this week, but I still think that 2022 will have its ups and downs for both teams, especially at quarterback.
Now, the Giants go out to London to face a Packer team who was very fortunate to beat the locals here, the Patriots, a line that closed 9.5. We both talked about it last week. The Sharps were coming in on the Patriots side, but that was predicated on the point differential between Mack and Hoyer was not 7 to 10 points. They had an initial line of 7.5 when Mack was going to be the quarterback. Did go 10.5, and it quickly went down to 9.5 there. Now it's Mr. Zappy. most likely going to be the quarterback against a decimated Lion team, which is the first time this year they've actually been outside. They had their home games at home, and then the Minnesota game technically inside. Now they got to travel. I don't know. DeAndre Swift will be out there. We don't know if St. Brown will be back. We don't know if Shark will be back. But we do know this: they don't have a defense. But where I was going with the Giants is no Daniel Jones. Their backup is also now hurt, and they're bringing in the Froms of the world who could be starting in London against the Packers.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one to handicap all the way around. I have a feeling. I don't know that Daniel Jones has been ruled out.
No, yeah,
So we could see him. Given the Green Bay run defense, a little bit exposed last week. Excuse me. I think the Jets are going to run Barkley as much as they can. And when I say run Barkley, it's not only run, but screens and misdirections and other stuff. Just get 20, 25 touches to Barkley as a way to keep Green Bay's offense off the field. The Giants, I think I wrote about this. I do a week 5 report, and I'll have some articles coming out. And then later today, in our weekly Tuesday podcast, Las Vegas Chris and I will talk about the NFL in more detail. But the Giants have not faced, if I remember correctly, a superstar set of quarterbacks in weeks 1 through 4. And if that's the case, they are now going to face one in Aaron Rodgers. And so I think the New York Giants secondary really can't be trusted. It would surprise me if the Giants won this game. But spread-wise, over a touchdown with a Green Bay team that is still learning how to play with one another with its new pieces, that's pretty tough. But again, I think the Giants are still in learning curve this year.
Jets and Dolphins, obviously Tua has been ruled out. Teddy Bridgewater will get the start in New York. Zach Wilson will make his home debut for the season there. He has some weapons. Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, a running back, Breece Hall and company. Do you agree with the Dolphins being a 3.5 point favorite there, or are you respecting the home dog with the Jets there?
I think the line would have been higher with Tua there and without all the distractions. I think 3.5 is a testament to the fact that we don't know if Miami is focused on the Jets as much as they're focused on damage control with the way they've handled the Tua situation. Every time the coach has a news conference, it's not about how you're preparing for the Jets. It's how you're handling the Tua situation. When is he due back and so on. You hope that the actual coaching staff, the defensive coordinator, the offensive coordinator, are not having to answer the same questions that they're getting ready for the Jets. But I see this as a distraction and a dangerous spot for Miami. My lean would be with the Jets.
You take a look, we're at the quarter pole, Ron. If you went back to June and July and assessed your power rankings in the NFL, and now we're at the quarter pole, I think what's going on locally today, and it's out on the national spotlight, both Tom and Giselle have hired divorce lawyers. Don't know what's going on. Obviously, in Tom's personal life, we saw the 2-0 Bucks, winners at Dallas, winners at New Orleans, come home and lose to the Packers and then lose to the Chiefs. Dallas, Dak itching to get back. Cooper Rush undefeated as a Cowboy as they head to the Rams. The Eagles, the only undefeated team. So we obviously, in my eyes, they're the number one team currently at the quarter pole in the NFC. You go over to the AFC. Mahomes with one loss, the Bills with one loss, Lamar now with 2 losses. How do you assess your power rankings, top 3, top 5 in the NFL right now?
Still have Buffalo number 1. I think they stole a win against Baltimore. Boy, I don't know how many times I've said it, but Jim Harbaugh is a very average coach. John Harbaugh is a very average coach. He gets by because he's got a great quarterback in Lamar Jackson, but he can't fix everything. And the defense has they've squandered some big leads already and should be 4-0. Instead, they're 2-2 with a damaging loss to Buffalo in tiebreaker number 1 seed scenarios. Buffalo's early schedule was murderous, and so I have them clearly at the top. And then I have a cluster after that. You can throw Philadelphia in there. You can throw Kansas City in there. You might even throw Green Bay in there. It would be close. I don't think anybody's really separated in that next group of teams right now. I think it's too early to tell. We've got 4 weeks worth of data. We'll just move on. I'm very impressed with Philadelphia. But, their schedule has been a little bit on the softer side. They got a break with 5 turnovers from Lawrence, 4 fumbles lost and 1 interception. Jacksonville was very much in that game. So I don't see any real front runners in the NFC right now. I don't think Philadelphia has separated as much as people think they have, but they're a very good team. And I love the smarts of Jalen Hurts. I think he's one of the smartest quarterbacks in the league. And Kansas City hasn't done anything wrong either. So certainly that close win against the Chargers, that game that was a toss-up that could have gone either way, and that was at KC, has given them a slight edge in the AFC West. But there's more football to be played. Only Buffalo so far.
And the impressive part about the Bills, I don't know if a lot of people have taken notice, Rams opening day, Titans on Monday night, and this past week of the Ravens, what do they all have in common? Second half shutouts by the Bills defense. So they're making these adjustments at halftime, and they, again, opening day against the Rams, the Monday night against the Titans, and real impressive, the deficit that they had in Baltimore, and Lamar Jackson and the Ravens didn't score a point in the second half there either.
Yeah, that's a good point that you just made. I hadn't realized that, but winning consistently is a product of a lot of things, and a lot of it is stability, coaching stability, an excellent GM who's fixed every area on Buffalo and actually made them pretty deep so that they could function and even beat Miami, even with a loss of 5 starters. Or actually, they didn't beat Miami, but they were competitive against Miami without 5 defensive starters and then a whole bunch of people really needing oxygen during that game and the humidity. I came away more impressed with Buffalo in that loss, and nothing has changed with the Bills right now. Everything's in front of them.
And opening week last year, they were 6.5 or 7-point favorites against the Steelers, and the Steelers shocked the world and came into Buffalo and beat them. Vegas said, not so fast, guys. 14 and 14.5 in some spots against the Steelers. Kenny Pickett's first official start. Good luck, Kenny, there.
Yeah. Not too much to add, but Buffalo is actually in an uncomfortable situation metrically in this game, but it's hard to think that Pittsburgh's going to outright win.
Couple minutes left. I bring the name up of Andrew Luck.
Yes.
Take it away.
One of the good guys in football. If somebody asked me to describe Andrew Luck, and I thought about this before the show, so I wrote down a few words that describe Andrew Luck. Architect, that was his major at Stanford. World scholar. I mean, he wants to know anything and everything about the world. He's very cerebral. He's extremely bright. He's inquisitive. Party crasher. Wedding crasher. The pictures went viral. He was walking down the streets in Indianapolis. There was a wedding going on. He came, crashed the wedding. He's a prankster. He's a guy everybody likes in the locker room. He jokes around. He's good. He's a private person, though. He's a family man. He's not craving the spotlight. And ultimately, he's one of the happiest ex-football players we have. And I thought of Andrew Luck in the past week because of the whole Tua situation. It just reinforces the fact that Andrew Luck, in his own mind, and people like him who who want to do more than just football, made the right decision to walk away from the game early. He had all those neck procedures, back procedures, the offensive line. They didn't draft well to support him. They concentrated on other areas, and it cost Andrew Luck a career. But in reality, I don't think Andrew Luck was going to be more than a 10-year player anyway because of all his outside influences. I just thought of Andrew Luck after this week, and I have a feeling he is just so happy right now. I know he's so happy right now, and it was reinforced with all the injuries that we saw this past week.
I'm so glad you brought that up. And in today's world and society, a lot of these athletes are now starting to pivot in that direction because there's jobs out there in broadcasting, whether it's an ESPN, whether it's a Fox, whether it's doing this for live at the games on the field. And I go back a handful of years prior to that. I think of Robert Smith from Minnesota, who had a doctorate, and he left early. There was talks, Calvin Johnson, Barry Sanders of the world, that, they try to use the Lions as the reason we've had enough. But again, stars in these lanes that tapped out and says, you know what, I want to have something left up here. There's more to my life than just, playing football on Sundays. And you're so spot on when you bring up Andrew Luck. It was a shocker. This guy was there's only, the 4 quarterbacks in our lifetime that were generational quarterbacks, the John Elways of the world, the Andrew Lucks of the world, the Peyton Mannings of the world. And Andrew pulled the plug, and I do a lot of high stakes fantasy. And it was like, excuse me, Andrew, where you going? Where are you going, Andrew?
Yeah. Well, he was taken one step at a time in his development, make the playoffs, win the first round, win the second round, get to the AFC Championship game. Certainly he would have gotten to the Super Bowl with a little bit better drafting and obviously a little bit better health. But I don't think that bothers him right now, and that's fine.
Before I leave, Marty had asked the question. I don't have the answer. I don't know if you can help us out here. Will the Oklahoma quarterback be playing this week?
I don't have the answer either. I haven't delved into it deeply enough.
Okay. Ron, we can't thank you enough for our once a week on Tuesday chat here from 3:30 to 3:45. Your work is impeccable. Anyone not following Ron, please go to Ron Ace Sports on Twitter. Follow him. He will follow you back. He will answer any question that you do have. Again, his NFL 2022 guide is on our website at www.East Coast Sports Investors. If you go to our website, pause for 5 seconds, you'll see it come right up. Just leave your email and you can download it immediately. Ron, thank you. Look forward to this weekend. Best of luck, and catch you back next Tuesday, hopefully.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Have a great weekend, and thanks again for having me on. Enjoy week 5.
We will. That's Mr. Ron at Ron Sports. Myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest. You can follow me there. We thank everyone watching and listening, and we will see you soon.